I am a slow reader. This year, I set my Goodreads reading challenge to 75 books, and so far, I've only read 30. But today, that's gonna change because I'm testing out every speed reading method to see if I can actually read faster. Some of these make sense, while some of them are just straight up absurd. But I'm gonna try out all of them, all while trying to complete Dune by Frank Herbert. Now this book is two things. Number one, it's a beloved classic to so many fans, and number two, it's the test subject for this video. Starting with normal. Well, it's time to find out how much I can actually read in 60 minutes. Here I come, Dune. Now as I begin, let me run you through the plot of Dune and catch you up on what I'm reading. Starting with the main characters. First up, we have Paul Atreides. This guy is basically the main character and the son of Duke Leto and Lady Jessica. Next up, Duke Leto Atreides. Duke Leto is Paul's father and the leader of House Atreides. Coming up next, Lady Jessica. This lady is Paul's mother and Duke Leto's partner. And then, the Baron Vladimir Harkonnen. Basically, this guy is the slimy and sadistic villain who is also the enemy of House Atreides. And lastly, Fade Rautha Harkonnen. Taking after his uncle, this psycho is the Baron's nephew and also his heir. I seriously have a love-hate relationship with books like these, mass market paperbacks. I'm only halfway through into the first chapter and the pages are literally already falling off. What? I can literally hear the pages peeling off, look. Anyways, the first chapter is spectacular so far. The plot of this book is something else entirely, so here's what's basically happening so far. Now the plot begins when House Atreides is handed the keys to the planet Arrakis, and House Atreides gets this planet as a gift from the Emperor himself. Now Arrakis is a desolate sandball of a planet, but it's also the only source of spice. Spice is a glittery substance that makes space travel possible, extends life, and gives you trippy visions. Now Duke Leto Atreides moves his entire family into Arrakis, even though he fully well knows that this gift from the Emperor is a poisoned apple. The previous owners of the planet Arrakis were none other than the Harkonnens. The Harkonnens are scheming blobs of evil led by none other than the Baron Vladimir Harkonnen. Well, I guess the 1 hour timer is up. To be honest, I did not feel the time pass because wow, this was actually much better than I expected. I genuinely did not think I'd enjoy this book as much as I am right now because wow. The world building is not overly complicated like so many fantasy books, and I've read like this much in an hour. To be honest, that's really good. I guess I'm a pretty fast reader, even without any hacks. Up next, we have the e-reader. For those of you who have no idea what I'm holding, this is basically a device that you can only use for reading. You literally cannot do anything else. Now sadly, it's not like I can get a physical copy of the book and slam it into this to get a digital copy of it. Man, I wish it was that easy. And that leaves me with one option remaining. Buy the Kindle version of the book. Hopefully this makes me read at least 90 pages an hour, because that would kind of be ideal, considering I paid extra. I think one of my favorite features of the Kindle is that I can highlight sentences, just like I did with my physical copy of Dune. Talk about this thing for a bit. I'm not sure how far deep I'm into the book because I can't really see with my Kindle, but I'm pretty sure I'm in like page 250 at this point. I was expecting to give this book 3 stars, but it's already 5 stars in my head. I still have like 20 minutes remaining for my reading session to finish, so it's time to get back to reading. Now as I pick up the book, let's return to Arrakis to find out what's going on with our folks over there. Now, coming to Paul Atreides, this guy is not your average 15-year-old boy. Trust me, he's not. He's got ninja level combat skills, the empathy of a psychic therapist, and also mysterious dreams of a girl in the desert. Now Paul's mother, Lady Jessica, is part of the Bene Gesserit, an all-female Jedi-like order with powers of persuasion so intense they could make a lion feast on a salad. Now the Bene Gesserit have been running a centuries-long breeding program to hopefully create a super being who is able to view all of time and space. I know, it's crazy. And at this point of the book, they are implying that Paul Atreides might just be the one. reading method 2, the playlist. Now, this reading hack is not exactly absurd like the next one on the list. Trust me, the next one is the most out-of-pocket thing in the entire list. I've actually done this reading hack before, especially while I was reading The Way of Kings by Brandon Sanderson. If you haven't already noticed, this thing is kind of thick. Okay, never mind, this thing is insanely thick. And while I was reading this 1000-page behemoth, I would have a curated reading playlist set up on the background for me to listen to while I read this thing. And I do feel like that did make this so much more enjoyable, so it's time to find out if it makes me read any faster too. To find the playlist I'm gonna be using, I think there's only one plausible option here. I'm obviously talking about YouTube. I've got it open right here, and I'm gonna do a quick search on Dune reading playlist. There was an insane amount of videos to choose from, but I kept on searching until I found the perfect playlist, which was roughly about 60 minutes long. I think I found the playlist I need. Holy shit, there's one for 8 hours? That's crazy. So far, I'm about this much into the actual book. I did do some off-camera reading last night because I was way too hooked. Ever since the 100-page mark in this thing, I have been wanting to read more and more. I guess that means my 60-minute timer has now begun. I've got my laptop right next to me with the playlist open and ready to play, and it also has an anatomy ad right next to it. Okay. And right next to it, I've also got my high-tech, advanced Logitech call center headphones. Pretty cool. And of course, who can even forget the actual book? I am so hyped for this. By now, the story is moving in a pretty fast pace, and all the little details are finally starting to take some shape. Now, the Atreides try to set up home in Arrakis, but it's kind of like moving into a haunted house where the ghost is capitalism. Now, Arrakis is important because of something called spice mining. Spice mining is dangerous work because of something called the sandworm. Think something like an underground Godzilla. These guys are colossal and also extremely cranky about their turf. We also have the Fremen, who are the native people of Arrakis and also live in harmony with the desert. So far, Dune is way too good. I think I'm getting addicted. Okay guys, I'm not even gonna lie, this soundtrack is genuinely so epic. This just made reading so much more immersive, and this playlist is specifically made for Dune, and genuinely it is the coolest thing ever. I so badly wish there was a way to show you guys what I'm seeing as I read the book. They approached Cave of the Ridges at dawnbreak, moving through a split in the basin wall so narrow they had to turn sideways to negotiate it. Jessica saw Stilgar detach guards in the thin dawnlight, saw them for a moment as they began their scrambling climb up the cliff. Paul turned his head upward as he walked, seeing the tapestry of this planet-cut in cross-section where the narrow cleft gaped to a grey-blue sky. Chani pulled at his robe to hurry him, said, "Quickly! It is already light. The men who climbed above us, where are they going?" Paul whispered. "The first day watch," she said. "Hurry now." A guard left outside. Paul thought, wise. But it would have been wiser still for us to approach this place in separate bands. Less chance of losing the whole troop. Coming up next, Upside Down. Here's what the website says as to why this speed reading hack is actually a speed reading hack. To be honest, I don't believe this one bit. Like, come on. Reading a book upside down? Really? Reading a book turned upside down allows you to increase your reading speed. First, read a paragraph in an upside down book, then return to its normal position and reread it. You will immediately feel how easily and quickly you can do it. I am terribly sorry, but the common sense is just not common sensing anymore. Because if I do what the website says, first I would have to read a full page upside down, and then I would have to turn the book around and read that same page again normally this time. Am I missing something here, or am I just an idiot? Wouldn't this technically make you read even slower than before? To whoever came up with this reading hack, you might just be out of your mind. Because how in the world is that supposed to make me read faster? With that being said, you guys know the drill. I think it's time to finally get back into reading. Okay. Oh jeez. Oh, this is really disorienting, what? As I go through the pain of reading this thing upside down, here's what's happening so far. At this point of the book, the first evil scheme of the Harkonnens falls into action. And in the very center of this entire scheme is Dr. Yue. This guy is a very trusted ally to the House Atreides, and he betrays House Atreides because the Harkonnens have his wife hostage. The result of this betrayal is Duke Leto getting captured and killed. Rest in peace, Duke Leto Atreides. You were some good ink. Following this betrayal, Paul and Jessica escape out into the desert while dodging sandworms, assassins, and also dehydration. After their narrow escape, Paul and Jessica are taken in by Stilgar, who is the leader of the Fremen, and this is when Paul begins his transformation from pampered noble kid to Muad'Dib, a prophesized warrior messiah. Long story short, the Fremen are extremely impressed by his combat skills, leadership qualities, and also the fact that he doesn't immediately die in the desert. That's a big plus. Massive plus, actually. Wow, this is annoying. I so badly want to snap this book shut and throw it across the room because trying to read a book upside down is so annoyingly difficult. I am not kidding. It is so disorienting. It is playing with my mind. I've read like 5 pages so far and I think it's been like 20 minutes now. If you were considering reading a book upside down to read faster, then please don't. Judging by the absurdity of this though, most likely most of you didn't even know this was a quote-unquote speed reading hack. Okay, let's go back to our newly escaped fugitives now. Both of them have safely escaped into the desert and now are taking shelter under Stilgar. This is when Jessica undergoes a ritual called the Water of Life, which is basically a deadly poison that only a trained Bene Gesserit can survive. Now at this point of the book, the Fremen are hell-bent on believing that Paul is their long-awaited savior, and things start to get a little insane. Paul starts seeing visions of himself leading a full-on galaxy-spanning jihad in his name. Oh my god, finally, at last. I'm gonna be entirely honest and say this. I was waiting for the timer to finish so bad. And trust me, Dune is such a good book. But this speed reading hack genuinely made things so much worse. If I am to give an estimate of how much I might have read in that grueling 60 minutes, I honestly think I might have read about 45 to 50 pages. Up next, the audiobook. Okay, let's find an audiobook version of Dune. YouTube.com. Dune by Frank Herbert. Audiobook. Dune. Full audiobook, part 1 of 3.
Book 1. Dune. A beginning is the time for taking the most delicate care that balances are correct.
I think this is real. Now it's time to find part 3 of 3. Dune, full audiobook, part 3 of 3. Reading this book upside down really made me lose track of a lot of things. As far as progress goes, I've just finished roughly 580 pages, which means I am officially entering the final quarter of this book, aka Book 3 The Prophet. Okay, hear me out, but I have a crazy idea for this hack. But what if I combined reading hack number 2 with reading hack number 4? That should hypothetically create the most immersive reading experience ever. I've got everything set up and ready. Right in front of me I have my laptop with both videos open and ready to play. And then of course the return of my old friend too. And who can forget the actual book itself? Now Paul, with his ninja-like combat skills, levels up as a leader, gathering all the Fremen into an unstoppable guerrilla force. They start hitting the spice production hard, which makes the Emperor and the Harkonnens sweat like they're stuck on Arrakis without still suits. Oh, and by the way, still suits are basically these fancy Fremen bodysuits that basically recycle sweat and pee into drinkable water. Crazy, but in Arrakis, hydration is life. Oh, and also, remember that girl from Paul's visions? Yeah, her name's Shani, and Paul and Shani are now kind of like an item. I'm at a genuine loss for words because, oh my goodness, combining the soundtracks with the audiobook was the best thing I've ever come up with. As I'm reading the book, it feels like I'm watching a movie except without the movie part. And what's even better is that the soundtrack and the audiobook basically forces me to focus on the actual story and what's happening. Like, I cannot miss a single detail because the narrator is basically reading it out all to me, and the little movie playing in my head has never been clearer before. Folks, we're nearing the end of this book, and by now, Paul has gone ahead and unleashed the Fremen all in one massive uprising, and using spice-enhanced psychic knowledge and Fremen military tactics, they somehow managed to fight off the invading Harkonnens, and this move also forces the Emperor into Arrakis. The